Hi, my name is Mike Vaughn. I'm the author of The Ultimate Guide to Strange Cinema, and I'm also a writer for Geek Vibes Nation.
And I'm Dillon Gonzalez. I am a senior critic for Geek Vibes Nation and also a co-host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast.
And welcome to a new Video Addict new release roundup. As always, we have a lot of fun, great titles to talk about, and I'm just gonna dive right into this. And to my first title, which is a series called Up All Night. And honestly, I've never heard of this before. Had you?
Yeah, I watched it whenever it was originally airing back in the day, so I thought this was an unexpected title for Blu-ray, but one that I welcome because I do enjoy this series.
Yeah, it's really good. It's interesting because I don't know if we've just really become spoiled with how great TV is. Versus from 2011 was a very different kind of time for TV. Like we still had some good stuff, but I don't think it was quite as good as we have it today. So watching this, it almost felt kind of quaint.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a bad way, but it just felt very simplistic. Like it was very kind of sitcom, like classic sitcom, like we have a new baby. What are we gonna do? Hijinks, and
Yeah.
like so I thought it was really fun. I will say this might be a little I love Christine Applegate. I love Will Arnett. Them together, I didn't really buy that chemistry. I know they worked really hard to sell that, and I think the later on in the series I got, the more I kind of bought it, but initially it just didn't kind of gel with me that much. And Maya Rudolph is always a win. It's kind of funny because she's playing this rich character, and I've been watching and reviewing Loot, which is a Apple show. Not sponsored, but a really good show that I've been enjoying. But it's funny because her character is very similar. This almost seemed like a proto kind of character with her being very affluent. But it's fun. This is 2 seasons. Here's the back. And so here they do, I just wanted to show off also how they do this. They do kind of like the layered disc situation, which I'm not a huge fan of, to be honest, but I kind of like it a little bit more than the see how the discs are kind of stacked up together. It's a little awkward, but again, the other option I think is that the little gates for the discs, and that can also be kind of awkward because there's usually break. So I think this is the lesser of two evils. Overall, the show looks really good. You can definitely tell that it was I guess this was what, Universal? Yeah. So this was probably licensed from a new restoration from Universal. So I know with Mill Creek, they unfortunately kind of have a reputation for not having the greatest transfers, but typically when they are working with a big studio licensing something, they always look really good. I think they're wise for licensing some of these newer restorations. That's the same with some movies that we've been talking about from Mill Creek. So it looks good. If you're looking for bonus content, you're out of luck, unfortunately. But if you just kind of want the show, and as you mentioned, it's kind of unexpected maybe for Blu-ray, so that might be a treat for fans of it. And certainly I did enjoy it. It's just it definitely, some of it also hasn't aged very well. Do you recall that Matt Lauer is in the first episode?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Which, I mean, prior to what we learned about him, that was a fun cameo probably, but now it's just Yikes. But yeah, but it's fun though. I like I said, I enjoyed it a little bit more when I got kind of into the rhythm. It just took me a little while. Just because it is so almost by the numbers, like sitcom-y, like we got new neighbors, wacky things are happening, like just kind of stuff like that. I don't know, but it's fine.
Yeah, it's very you can pretty much jump in at any time and be
Mhm.
perfectly fine. I kind of view it as like it's like the family sitcom in the wake of like the success of 30 Rock, where it kind of has that
Mm.
30 Rock like workplace sensibility, but then like
Yeah.
the home life is kind of more of the straightforward, like, what are we doing as new parents and stuff. So actually this is just like a kind of like behind the scenes like info in the second season. It's like a short second season, it's like 7 episodes. There actually were plans for them to retool the show completely and make it like a 3 camera sitcom, but then they just ended up
Mm.
canceling it instead because basically no one wanted to do that. But I was just like, that would have been a wild overhaul from being like a single camera
Yeah.
comedy to just like suddenly in the middle of a season it's a 3 camera sitcoms. So luckily they put it out to pasture before that happened.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I'm glad you brought that up because yeah, that definitely would be really jarring, I guess, to say the least, to switch over to that format. But yeah, I thought it was entertaining enough. I definitely can kind of see why it maybe didn't have like the longevity that it did. It didn't really have anything that really made it like super stand out, like something like when you had The Office, but then that kind of begat Parks and Rec, but that show kind of found its own identity, and I don't think this ever quite did. Um,
Yeah, a show that I hope does have some longevity is my next title. My first title is the Showtime show Yellowjackets season
mm,
1, which I know you're a fan of.
yes.
I did not get to watch this as it originally aired, but I am glad I finally got to see it. This comes in a new 4 disc set. Wait, no, yeah, 4 disc set. And this does have the swing trays, like you said. I actually prefer these rather than stacked discs, but these are not broken yet, so that's good. Yeah, this does come from Showtime and CBS Entertainment. Um, People may be aware of this because recently it got nominated for Best Drama Series for its first season at the Emmys. So that's exciting, along with a slew of the actresses got nomination. It's very exciting. Um, so I really enjoyed this show. For those who don't know, it kind of works in kind of like a dual timeline type thing. It begins with a girls soccer team who get involved in a plane crash, and are kind of lost for almost 2 years. And you kind of don't really know what happened while they were there, but you know that some shit went down. And then you have the girls in the present day, played by the likes of like Melanie Linsky, Christina Ricci, Juliette Lewis, and kind of like the trauma that they still bear from their time there. And there's like kind of like it's like a almost a mystery box show where you're trying to figure out what happened while the girls were lost. And there's I don't want to give away too much because the season you may kind of expect it to go more in just like a straight kind of Lord of the Flies type situation, but things get a little bit more complex than that. And it's there's a lot of nice twists and turns, and especially how the season ends. It leaves me like highly anticipating the second season. So what I really like about the show especially is that in addition to kind of just like the little mysteries that are like placed throughout, it really like it kind of explores kind of the trauma and like living with trauma. And just kind of like this really leans into the female perspective. I know a large part of this show was directed by Karen Kusama, who's done a lot of great work with like Jennifer's Body, and Destroyer. She's a great director, and she actually participates in a lot of the featurettes that are on this, which there are 2 new featurettes, one about the female perspective and another kind of the creatives talking about their favorite scenes that to like shoot, and that kind of gives some background information. So that's like some exclusive extras to the package. So this is a very layered show. It's a really gnarly show. There's a lot of like stuff that'll make your skin crawl, but in a good way. I think it's like an approachable show, but it is kind of like, it gives you kind of that gory goodness that's like, gives you a little thrill. So that's fun too. So this is actually one of my favorite new discoveries. And I know a lot of people have like discovered it way before I have. So like, this isn't news to them, but it's finally out on Blu-ray. Yellowjackets. It's a really great show, and I'm glad to have like the stability of Blu-ray, because I did check out. I do have Showtime. I just don't utilize it always. And when I heard it was coming to Blu-ray, I was like, I'll just wait. And I checked, and there are a lot of compression artifacts on the Showtime stream, which are not on the Blu-ray. So physical media forever. I appreciate this. If you're like as much of a fan, especially of like Melanie Linsky or Christina Ricci as I am, you owe it to yourself to watch this show, because it is excellent.
Yeah, it's well, yeah, like I've said in the past, I love the show. I think it's like the closest thing to like what we have like a modern day Twin Peaks. And I know a lot of shows try to be Twin Peaks, and they usually end up just being like a copy. And this feels the most authentic to that kind of weird, like just weird and kind of like a David Lynchian kind of realm. So yeah, I love it. I'm so excited. I'm really excited before the new season. I'm gonna rewatch it again. And I've like watched a bunch of videos about some like fan theories about like the ending, which we won't talk about, but yeah, I'm so psyched. So my next one is also a show, definitely not as well known, but I think it's worth giving a pretty big shout out to, and that is AMC's That Dirty Black Bag season 1. And I'm hoping there'll be a second season. This didn't get a lot of great reviews, but I'm kind of hoping that the ratings were maybe good enough for it to get another season. So here's the back. So this show is basically a really gritty, very violent love letter to Italian Westerns. Like it is even shot in Italy, and it's fantastic. The plot is a little bit complex. Like I will say, you can't just casually watch this. You really have to have your whole brain on it, but I think it's really well worth it. And I have to say, this is also like one of the most beautifully shot shows I've seen in a long time. Like it really kind of floored me how stunning, like there was times when you could like pause something, and like just the way it's shot and lit, it's like a work of art. Which again, when you see this, you don't really necessarily think that it's going to be like that visually stunning. And I don't want to oversell it like that, but it did impress me on that front. Like the acting's really good. The characters are really interesting. Like especially in the like beginning of the show, you kind of don't know like where certain people fall. If like they're the good guys, bad guys, maybe shades in between. And I like that because it kept me engaged and interested to like find out more about these characters and what's going on. So I'm trying to be vague because I don't want to really give away a lot of like plot points, because it does kind of keep some of this stuff a little ambiguous, like until you really get into kind of like the meat of what's going on. But I really liked it. I thought it was again really stunning. The actors are great. I'm a little bit disappointed that there really wasn't like any kind of like features on this. I would have loved maybe a featurette, or I know they rarely do commentaries for shows anymore, but I'm a commentary kind of person. So yeah, but I think it's stunning. Now, have you seen the show yet?
Yeah, I haven't made it through the complete season yet, but from what I've seen, I really like it. It's much better than I kind of had in my mind whenever I entered into it.
Yeah, and it's so funny because like people, one of the criticisms was it's too violent, and you've seen it, like, so that it's like pretty violent. But honestly, I don't know if I'm just jaded, but I didn't think it was that bad.
No, yeah, I people should be kind of used to this by now, especially with like all the premium like HBO shows and just
Right.
like a bunch of stuff like out there. Like even FX shows are pretty violent a lot of times.
But the thing is, though, uh, I think what a lot of critics don't kind of get is this is like supposed to be kind of like the Wild Bunch, or like Sergio Leone films.
Hmm.
And they were gritty and dark and violent, and that's what this is modeled after. So I kind of don't understand like what that criticism really is all about. And again, I didn't really think it was that gory. Like, yeah, it's a little rough, and like I know like my husband doesn't like anything that's like super rough or gory or like bleak, so I kind of like know like to not show him stuff like that. So this probably would be like a little bit too rough for him, but like, again, maybe I'm super jaded. I thought it was like, oh, is that it? Like, you know. But yeah, I liked it. Again, it's hard to talk about this movie. I almost said movie. This show, because I don't want to really give away a lot, because it does have a lot of like clever, I think, twists and turns, and I do like the ambiguous nature of some of these characters. So yeah, pretty fun. I really hope it gets a second season. It's a little bit iffy. I did do some homework and see that it hasn't been officially announced one way or the other yet. But here's hoping, because it was a really fun discovery. It was one of these that like I was a little bit leery on, because it didn't really look like something I would watch. But like when they said it was like modeled after Italian westerns, and I'm a big fan of that. I know you are too. So I was like, all right, I'm sold.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, but definitely worth checking out, and I hope they give it another chance. And this wasn't promoted very well, because I had never even heard. Had you heard of this before this release?
I think I'd seen like ads on maybe like IMDb, like the little banner ads, but
Mm,
like no, I
mm,
hadn't really seen any like big promotions for it.
yeah, but well, here it is now. Check it out.
Yeah, maybe now it's time to shine. People will find it on physical media, and maybe it'll get renewed.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah. Um, well, we've been talking about a lot of shows so far, so I'm actually going to move over to movies for a second. I have two movies from classic flicks that I want to highlight. First off, one, this is like a really epic release, and I'm very excited about it. It is the new Abbott and Costello journey, Jack and the Beanstalk, from I believe it's 1951. So yeah, this was previously released on Blu-ray, I believe, from BCI, if I'm not mistaken. But Classic Flicks, in association with the 3D Film Archive and Abbott and Costello historian Bob Furmanek, they did a new complete 4K restoration of this film. Went back to the original negative and made it look as like close as to what Abbott and Costello wanted at the time. They completely like brought out the colors and just like cleaned up a lot of like the artifacts and like the damage of the like print. It looks incredible. What they've able to accomplish with the new 4K scan is amazing. I'd actually never seen this film before, and what there's a new introduction from Luke Costello's youngest daughter on this. It's like a 2-minute audio
Mm.
introduction. I believe her name is Chris Costello. If I'm wrong, I apologize. But she kind of talks about like where this film falls within like the Abbott and Costello like oeuvre. And this is actually the first color film that they ever did. And this kind of takes kind of like a Wizard of Oz approach, where the film is bookended with kind of like a sepia toned like look, where within like the main narrative, you have like Abbott and Costello. They end up in a circumstances where they're playing like basically a babysitter for like this young boy who's like kind of run off all the babysitters in the neighborhood, and like because he's like a menace basically. And then Abbott and Costello come in and they're like reading him the story of Jack and the Beanstalk, and then you kind of like go into the story where basically like they are acting out the stuff. So like you have like Costello playing Jack, and going to like meet the giant, and there's like all the people in like normal life are playing different versions of within the story. So it's a classic Jack and the Beanstalk story, but kind of like expanded into feature form. It is only 78 minutes, so they don't try to like put in too much. Like it's not like dragged out unnecessarily. It's still kind of tightly paced with like the main story, some classic Abbott and Costello gags, and also like a few songs sprinkled in there that are actually pretty catchy songs. So overall, I did really like this, and I do like kind of the Jack and the Beanstalk story. I like kind of like fantasy tales like that. So it's fun to see these kind of enacted like in classic form. I know a few months ago you talked about the Wonderful World of the Brothers Grimm. So like I kind of like stuff like that, where you're kind of seeing like these like classic stories brought to life on screen in a really fun way. So the film itself is very entertaining. The presentation is amazing. Like I said, it's a new 4K restoration. Looks great. The sound can sound a little bit hollow at times, but overall it sounds really good. Mostly just kind of sounds a little bit like brash whenever you're like the highs of the like score, but overall it's very solid track all around. And unlike a lot of classic flicks releases, which they try to put as many special features as possible, but usually it's just like a feature here or there, they went all out for this one. There is a new audio commentary from an Abbott and Costello expert. There are new featurettes about the color process that they used whenever they filmed this. I think it's called Cinecolor. And they kind of go into why, if you view this and don't think this looks like as vivid as like a Technicolor feature, there is a reason for that. It's because the initial like filming technique, like the Cinecolor, was not the most stable and not the most vibrant, which is why I didn't really stick around for the longest time. There is also a new featurette on the score, different featurettes on the movie itself. There's like some new like old like radio skits included. There are like a featurette on like scenes that were cut from the film, like deleted scenes. I know I'm running out of breath almost. There's so many features. It's just an amazing release. I'm not sure if I showed you the inside, but here I will take out the disc. So you got kind of like a cast photo here. So yeah, this release really impressed me. I've become more of like a bigger Abbott and Costello fan, almost single-handedly because of classic flicks, because of like the Abbott and Costello show that I talked about on one of our first episodes, and along with like some other movies that I've been able to like check out. So yeah, if you are an Abbott and Costello fan, even if you had the previous Blu-ray release, I would say this probably blows it out of the water, just because there is a restoration comparison that shows like before and after, and like it is a night and day difference. So Abbott and Costello fans, watch out. Also from classic flicks, not as like special feature packed, but also a really good movie, is the film International Lady, which is, as you can see, a World War II spy thriller. It tells you right on the package. It's part of the classic flicks Silver series. This movie, this disc, it's been like nicely restored, and it looks really nice on Blu-ray. The plot is not completely like novel or anything. It just concerns a two spies, like a British spy and American spy, and also a woman who is a singer who is also believed to possibly be like an undercover like agent for like I believe the Nazis, and just trying to kind of their dynamic. There's like some intrigue, there's some romance, and there's like some kind of playing both sides where some people are going undercover and trying to like figure out whose side other people are on, while trying to figure out how to like spoil a plan that is being set in motion to kind of that would like upend the war basically. So there's like a lot of different elements wrapped into one movie. It's pulled off really well. This one's a little bit longer at an hour and 42 minutes, but I think it like justifies its runtime pretty well. It always kept me engaged. The performances are solid. I didn't know too many of the performers. I know Basil Rathbone. I did not know George Brent previously, or Iona Massey, but all three do a really good job. So if you're just looking for like a really well-made spy thriller, this International Lady, it quite entertained me. There's no special features or anything, but the presentation is incredibly solid, like I expect from classic flicks. So that's a good discovery for me.
Yeah, those both sound really awesome. I know, you definitely are a big Abbott and Costello fan. I need to kind of check them out. I know I had a similar thing with Laurel and Hardy, where I was discovering a lot of their stuff, which kind of gave me like a new perspective on that comedy duo. So I think I need to definitely check those out and see if I can get like the same kind of. I know like Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein is like one of my favorite movies. So
you're already halfway there then.
Yeah, I definitely like to be honest, I'm probably more a Laurel and Hardy kind of duo fan, but I definitely can see like and appreciate like Abbott and Costello and that pairing. So my next one is from RLJE, and that is Duel. And I am so happy because, and here's the back actually. So before I get in, but I'm really happy that I like this movie because I was afraid that RLG would just stop sending me things because like the last couple titles I was really not feeling. But yeah, I'm happy to say that I do really like this movie. So it's really interesting because I will say from the like outset that you have to be really comfortable with like bleak sci-fi concepts, because Duel is an incredibly dark satire, and it concerns a future where if you're dying you can basically have a double made of you. And if in a really unlikely situation and it turns out that you ordered a double and it turns out you aren't dying, you can have it discontinued. But even more unlikely, if that double can prove to the courts that it has kind of a life of its own, it can challenge challenge you to a duel, because basically like two of you can't exist in the same like time and space. So that is where the titular duel comes in. So I will say that it is very convoluted, but I also found it very clever. And I think that like it has a really interesting kind of weird world building that I definitely appreciated. Have you seen this?
Yeah, I caught it during its virtual Sundance premiere earlier this year, and I quite enjoyed the movie. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, but okay, since you've seen it, like you would probably say that this cover is maybe a little bit deceptive.
Yeah, I probably. Yeah.
And I don't mean
because
that
it's not an action-packed romp or anything like that.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's not to say that's a bad thing. I actually really liked how I went in thinking it was going to be like a dumb, and don't get me wrong, I love like dumb action comedy, action movies or action like dark comedies. But I will say that like this was a lot more introspective and a lot more interesting than I really thought. Like it definitely tries to maybe almost give you something like Blade Runner like. Not maybe quite to that polish, but it definitely is like hitting some of those like early Ridley Scott notes that I like. So yeah, don't go in thinking it's going to be like this epic like big action thing. Kind of like if you go in with the expectations that it's going to be a little bit more sedate, a little more like cerebral, I think that you might go in with like the right kind of expectation. Like even though I was thinking from this cover that it was going to be an action film, I still really did enjoy it. But I think that it's probably going to throw off a lot of moviegoers. So maybe keep that in mind. This does have it has a commentary track, and you know I love that, so that was fun. And then
It's
has a
really
little
good.
making of feature, so that's really nice. It looks great. You know, these like newer films being up converted always like look really crisp and clean. RLGE always kind of puts out a really nice package overall. This is certainly no different. I love the slipcover. This doesn't have anything exciting in the inside. That's what that is. But yeah, it's great. Just you know, just fair warning, it's not the big bombastic kind of movie that the cover maybe kind of makes you think it is. But I'm like pleasantly surprised. I That was one of the movies that I kind of wasn't looking forward to watching, and I was like, oh, all right, I like this. It's very like it's going to be very divisive. Like either you'll love it and you think it's really creative and interesting, or I think you'll just think it's kind of like pretentious. Uh, but you get what I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
there's probably not going to be a lot of middle ground.
Yeah, I liked it when I first saw it. I liked it more the second time I saw it because I really like Riley Stearns. I really like The Art of Self-Defense. If you've ever seen that movie,
Mm-hmm.
it's really good. So I had my expectations up pretty high for this one, and I was really on board for most of it. And then once I'm not going to give anything away, but once you hit the end, I was kind of like, oh, okay. And I was kind of left kind of like a little unsatisfied. But then when I watched it like the second time, knowing where it was going, I was just like, oh, okay, like it's like, I'm not even gonna say like how I was feeling, but it's just like it lines up better in my head how it ends. So
Mm-hmm.
like even if you maybe don't enjoy it, like if you're like on the cusp of enjoying it the first time, try giving it a second watch. Especially like I really loved listening to the audio commentary from Stearns because he like reveals so much like behind the scenes detail and like little like aspects within the frame that I maybe like overlooked, and I was like, oh, that's clever. So like I really appreciated being able to watch this again on Blu-ray.
Yeah, there's definitely like some really nice subversions too. I don't think this is really giving anything away, but like the Aaron Paul's characters like you know, teaching this our like protagonist like self-defense, and she can't pay for it. And he's like, well, you know, we can do like you know, other methods of payment. And you're thinking, oh, gross. But it actually is, it turns out it's not like sex. It's he wants to learn Moses salsa dancing or something. So
Yeah.
I love that. I like how you have these like clever like little like subversions of what you kind of think. So yeah, this movie's fun. Like I think that like if you liked the art of self-defense, you definitely would probably be a good gauge whether or not you will like this or not. So yeah.
Absolutely. That actually leads in pretty well to what I'm about to talk about. It's a film where I thought I was getting into one thing, but then it was something very much different. That is the new Arrow video release of The Sacred Spirit, which I freaking love this cover art. I think it looks really cool. This is the original, like, first pressing limited edition, which is important because I will share what is in that will not be in any subsequent pressings. So first I'll show off the packaging, same cover art underneath. There's some reversible cover art here. And this limited edition is a 2-disc release. Get that back in there. It comes with a booklet here with some stills and essays within it. So some writings and a double-sided poster. So that epic cover art and the reversible cover art here. So, and I'm just showing you this little girl because I'm going to be talking about her in a second. And finally, so yeah, you got disc 1 and disc 2, and that second disc is the one that will not be on any like standard editions moving forward. So once I get into the special features, if it sounds like something that would interest you, you might want to pick up the first pressing. So yeah, this film, it's really interesting. It's a Spanish film, and it starts out with a young girl, the girl I just showed you, speaking at like basically like a show and tell. And through her speech, you learn that her sister was actually abducted several months prior, and she is like currently missing, and no one really knows what happened to her. So you kind of have like her mother like pleading on television, like, if anyone has any information, please get in contact. And like it's kind of like a national news story. Concurrently, there are like people in her life and like friends who know her who are part of this UFO enthusiast group. And they kind of go to this meeting every week and like kind of like talk about kind of like some of their like passion for UFOs and like things that they've heard that are like sightings and kind of like lore with UFOs, until one day the leader of the UFO like group, he passes away, and then a new guy, he kind of comes into power and kind of like learns all the secrets of the organization. And I'm trying to pick my words so I don't like give away anything, but this kind of deals with the intersection between like that group and like his relationship with the little girl and how that interacts. So there's this kind of like, I believe, yeah, I talked about this movie called Threshold several months ago, which kind of dealt with like some culty stuff and like beliefs of different things and like kind of paranormal connections and everything. This one kind of has similar energy where there's like, I'll just call them cult members for ease. The cult members, they kind of believe certain things of just like, if they perform certain rituals, certain things might happen, and just kind of their connection to the cosmos and like whether that like, is it true or not, blah, like blah, blah. So you kind of see how that kind of plays out. And also concurrently, this mother trying to find her younger daughter. It is a really well done movie, and I expected it to be like way more sci-fi than it actually is, even though there are like kind of like elements of it that are kind of like interesting, like cult dynamic type things. But it's more of like a impactful drama than I anticipated, and also kind of like occasionally like a satire of media and how they like exploit tragedies and all that type of stuff. There's a lot packed into this movie that I really wasn't expecting when I was just kind of thinking it was going to be more of like a time and space type of journey. But this is like a really, really good movie. I believe it debuted at the Locarno Film Festival a couple, like maybe 2020 or 2021. And I think it won the like narrative prize at that festival. And I can see why. It really stuck with me once the film ended. It's like really well paced. It has really good acting. And once you reach the end, it's the type of movie that you want to kind of go back and like see how it built up to that ending. You're like, oh, okay, this was kind of like peppered in throughout, and you kind of get like a new appreciation for it, which I really appreciate. So this film is worthy of a lot of examination, and this Blu-ray release actually does a good job of that, because there's several like video essays where they kind of like break down like Egyptian symbology and different kind of like featurettes on just like cults and like that type of like dynamic, and like the media and like conspiracies, class dynamics, all that kind of stuff. There's also like a new interview with the director. There is there are like different kind of like throughout the movie, there are news reports that are like you are shown in like snippets, and you get like kind of like more full versions of those news reports as special features. So it's like probably 6 or 7 like 2-minute news reports that are included, and there are other stuff like that included. The second disc, the exclusive disc of this limited edition, is filled with like short films from the director, which are really cool. You get 6 short films from the director that range from 6 minutes to like just under an hour. So some of these are like really substantial. A lot of them like kind of fall in like the 10 to 20 minute range, but there's at least one that's like 56 minutes long. And if you like the feature film, you're going to want to see like all these shorts, because you can really see how he got to this point in his career, how it's all been leading up to this place, and like how it like he's been really talented from the beginning. So I highly recommend this, even if like you're not like a sci-fi fan. I don't think you need to be for this, because like if you're just a fan of like dramatic storytelling, which I think we all are, this is really good. It's like I said, it's a Spanish film, so they're like it's Spanish with English subtitles. But yeah, it's worth seeking out if you. I think you especially would really like it if you checked it out.
Nice. Yeah, looks pretty awesome. I don't know, a good segue into my next one, so I'm just gonna go right into it, and that is The Lost City 4K. And I have to say, well, first of all, I'll show off a little bit of the cover there. Some really nice features, slipcover.
I hope you like this more than you like Dog.
Yes, I did. So here's the inside. There's a digital copy with that. It's not in there right now, but yeah. So I was a little bit skeptical about this movie, because I mean, it just seems kind of like Romancing the Stone for a modern maybe day, but I really liked it. I know this isn't Paul Feig, but it kind of reminded me of one of his movies, kind of like The Heat, which also has Sandra Bullock. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. It definitely does play like a kind of satire of a lot of venture and romance films. Again, I mentioned like Romancing the Stone is one that I think everybody kind of thinks of, but yeah, it's definitely not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but I really thought it was fun and enjoyable. Like there is some shaggy plotting, but I was overall really engaged and enjoyed everything throughout. like Daniel Radcliffe is in this and is hilarious. And I didn't realize actually that he was in that. So it was a lot of fun whenever he kind of just pops up. This has bloopers, and outside of a commentary track is like my favorite kind of feature. And that's a lot of fun. Yeah, it looks fantastic. I have to say that, like, again, it's a really fantastic looking movie visually, and it's nice to see that in 4K. Now, I did stream this originally, but like we talked about before, with streaming you get like compression issues. Here you really get to take in all like the breathtaking locations, the special effects. Everything has a really nice, clean, crisp, clear looking sheen to it. Yeah, and it's like the total package. And again, I really very much appreciate the fact that this does have some extra features on it. It's not just like dumped out. That's always good. I mean, I enjoyed the movie, and so I definitely enjoyed deep diving into some of this other stuff that it had. Again, always give me a blooper reel. I don't care if it's like for a comedy or a drama or anything in between. I want it. Please and thank you. So yeah, so that's great. The movie was, like I said, fun. If you're not willing to just watch something dumb and ridiculous and silly, you're probably not going to like this movie. If you are willing to kind of engage with it, I think you're going to have a good time.
Yeah, that's great. I think it was initially announced as like a Blu-ray only, so I'm glad it's actually got a 4K release, and the Dolby Vision transfer looks really good. So especially those jungle locations really pop. So that's really fun. So okay, we are entering the portion of the show. I'm going to talk about like 3 releases right now. This is the portion of the show of movies not for me. Okay, I thought they would be, but they are not. So I will say right off the bat, there is a new like a series, like a new line that I think a lot of people are going to really love, because these are clearly amazing releases, but I just realized these are not going to be for me, so I probably won't be covering any more of these in the future. That is the new label from Wild Eye called Visual Vengeance. And okay, so also, Mom, if you're watching, which I know you usually do, just like skip a few minutes because I'm going to be talking about a lot of gnarly stuff. So the first there's the Necro Files and Bloody Muscle Bodybuilder from Hell, which okay, yeah. One of these is better than the other, but I just know that I'll probably never want to watch either of these again. My biggest thing is probably my journey with these is I realize that I am not a person who is going to love shot on video horror films. There's just something about the aesthetic that just really doesn't work for me for the most part. I know I covered The Last Broadcast recently, but I kind of view that as kind of different because I was kind of more going for it like a documentary type feel, and this is just supposed to be like an actual film, and it was not jiving with me, especially with this the Necro Files. Yes, that is a like dead zombie baby that like ends up going around and killing people, but that is not even the most disturbing part of the movie. Yeah, there's the eating stuff, and yeah. So yeah, release wise, this is like an incredible release. So here's the cover underneath, and okay, just this has some of the wildest swag I've ever seen. A Necro Files condom. There's a bunch of stickers, like adults only, definitely for this. There is a fold out poster. Yes. So we got dead babies.
Got
That's
your little baby
cool.
there.
Yeah. And just like a little like insert here. It's just like, yeah, there you go. Also, okay, so here's the disc art with the dead baby, and didn't know I'd be talking about dead babies so much.
We need to get a little like counter every time you say dead babies.
Yeah, and it's weird because, like I said, the dead baby is not even the most disturbing part of this movie. So basically, the conceit of this film is it starts out with a lunatic rapist who is going around raping and killing women, and in the course of this, in his latest victim, he gets killed during the process by police who finally catch up to him. But then he is brought back to life through like this cult who like sacrifices a baby. And he comes back as a zombie, and it's kind of like reverse necrophilia because it's like not having sex with a dead person, it's a dead person having sex with women. So it's a zombie comes back and starts his rampage again, raping women. So it is a time. This is meant, I think, to be like a satire. I will admit that. There's so much overacting. Like the police, the two inept policemen, they are yelling every single one of their lines just the whole time. They are like at an 11. They're just spouting it out. It's and these are also both like really short. I believe this runs just over like an hour long. It's just unpleasant for me. I just did not like it. Visually, like aesthetically, or just narratively, it just was not for me. Like I said, people who love this movie, this is a fantastic release, even though it is shot on video, so it's not going to look pristine by any means. It's like really like low quality on a blue high def disc. Like both of these start out by saying like prepping you by saying like these are not going to look great, these are the best quality that we can possibly get, enjoy basically. So I enjoy the package. I did not enjoy the movie. It has a ton of special features. It has 2 commentary tracks, an interview with the director, a making of. It has a whole like hour-long sequel that was made in 2017. This original one was made in like 1997, I believe. The new one is in 2017. I like it quite a bit more because it's made completely with like dolls. Like they're just like doing kind of like stop motion doll stuff. So like I was on board with that, but there's also like a bunch of other like different little featurettes and vintage stuff. So if you like grotesque killings and like gratuitous nudity and dead babies, like there you go, Necro Files. The other one, oops, I forgot to put the condom back. Anyway.
Isn't that always the way?
And then Bloody Muscle Bodybuilder in Hell. This one I actually like pretty well. It's just like aesthetically still not my bag. This is very much inspired by The Evil Dead. They even note as much in the press notes. So this is I believe it's a Japanese film. Yeah, it's known as The Japanese Evil Dead. It starts out, well, let me just show you all the stuff in here. Once again, the swag is amazing. You have a vintage video card in here. The same stickers as before. So here's your stickers. A fold out. This is a booklet. So got some text here. Let's see, is this a poster? Yes, it is. So you get this poster. So you got some eyeballs here and all that stuff. So the disc art here and the reversible cover art here. So yeah, this film, it starts out with a man killing his partner who has been like possessed, and he like buries her underneath the floorboards in the house. And then it kind of jumps forward in time, and there is the titular bodybuilder. He is called upon by his ex-girlfriend to like accompany her to this house, which he has unexpected ties to, which you find out. And they kind of are trying to learn more about the mysteries of this house, which ties back to that opening scene. And there's kind of like some like fun, practical, like possession stuff going on, like the old school Evil Dead, like kind of stop motion, kind of fun, cool, like possession type things going on. This isn't as like ruddy and like lo-fi as Necro Files, but it's still like shot on video. It's really well done though. I think like it's choosing between the two, Bloody Muscle Bodybuilder and Hell is better. This also has 2 commentary tracks, an interview with the director, a making of, and just like various little featurettes. So I know a lot of people have been highly anticipating this one. So it's a great release if you are into it. Final film. This one, not shot on video, but still not quite my bag, but I liked it even a bit more than these other 2. And that is Aliens, Clowns, and Geeks.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I just, that is Richard Elfman, right?
Yes. The great Richard Elfman, who, like, if he is watching this, like, I want to say, like, I appreciated what you did with this movie, but this is just not for me. I sought this out primarily because I like a lot of the cast. I'm a big fan of Steve Agee. French Stewart is in this, who I used to love on like Third Rock from the Sun and like various shows like Mom. And this is like the last film from Vern Troyer here. So it was really good to see him in this film. And I appreciated a lot about what this movie is doing. It's very like zany. It does not give a fuck about anything. It's like, I think Richard would be pleased to hear me say this. It's very tasteless, and in the best way. But the basic plot conceit is there's a guy. I would just say he finds basically an object, basically like a tower statue, emerges from his anus, and it like holds certain secrets, and there's like a like warring conflict between like these like alien clowns and like the green aliens, and there's like relationship stuff between like these like 2 like Swedish sisters, and there's like jealousies, and there's like a tasteless man who's like taking pictures of like a nun using the restroom, and then there's George Wendt, who played Norm on Cheers, who's like, I don't know, there's like Steve Agee, like a lot of people play like various roles in this. Like there's like kind of like a theater troupe in that way, where there's like Steve Agee plays like 2 roles. There's like a woman who plays like 5 different roles. Steve Agee at one point plays like a transgender character, which I'm unsure about how that ended up being portrayed, but I'll just say it's played for laughs and a lot of like coarse dialogue that he says, like, but it's like it's so on the nose that I think that was kind of the point, but still, like I said, just not for me. So there are elements that I kind of chuckled at, but overall The release that it's like a nice release. It has some behind the scenes interviews. It has a music video. It has an interview with Richard Elfman. I really like the score from Danny Elfman, his brother. So like, I like that a lot. If you're a fan of Richard Elfman, I think you'll like this. If you are not familiar with him, maybe try to find like some clips or like sample a trailer or something. I just kind of went in blind and see if that kind of resonates with you and go from there. So
Yeah,
that's my segment.
have you seen Forbidden Zone?
I have. This was my first Richard Elfman.
Okay, yeah. So Forbidden Zone might be like a good, maybe testing the waters. I know I like Forbidden Zone quite a bit. It has an amazing kind of cult following. This almost feels like not a sequel, but like a companion piece. Although I haven't seen it yet. But yeah, I know, like I think he did maybe do like finally did a sequel to Forbidden Zone, like a proper sequel. But yeah, I haven't really seen like anything from Elfman outside of like Forbidden Zone, but of course like he and Danny were in Oingo Boingo, which is like one of my favorite like bands of all time. So he always gets a pass from me just because of that fact. But yeah, it sounds interesting. I feel like between this and Necro Files, I mean, like you had quite the adventure cinematically.
Yeah, I just had to group them all together because like my brain could just not handle processing them. Like I just had to get through it.
Yeah, no, it sounds I mean, I was gonna say I assume you didn't like marathon these all back to back, because that might have been
Now I've been watching these over the last few weeks. I just had to build up to it.
yeah. No, that's fair. So there's no really good transition. So this is season 2 of Ice Cold Murders.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because I know last time when I talked about this, I said about how I was a little bit not like just intrigued that they kind of built him as this like almost like sex symbol.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't have, had you gotten into season 2 yet?
Not yet. No, I'm still working my way.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm sorry.
on to season 2, but I haven't made it to the first episode yet.
Okay. Yeah, so it's funny because like right out of the gate, it's like him in the shower. And then it's like
Again?
I'm like, what are you trying like what are you trying to tell me that I should be feeling about this particular chain smoking detective? But you know, it's again like season 1, it is incredibly well shot. Just like beautiful how they like use the camera, and they really do kind of like the like kind of like I said in the first season, like I was not expecting this show to be this visually like beautiful and stunning. Like, you know, I still think about like the first like two-parter of the first season and just how like atmospheric that was. And it's important because like that is like the first impression that you get of the show, of the series as a whole. And it kind of like hooked me where I was like, I want to see where this is going, you know. So I have to say, I think I like this season a little bit more. That's why I was kind of curious if you've seen it. I think the cases are a little bit more interesting, and again, you still kind of get some nice depth to this character, like his various relationships. Again, I don't want to like give too much away because you haven't seen it. Plus, maybe some of you all haven't seen like the first season yet. But I think like what we were talking about a little bit like last week was like you kind of like he's like a really complicated character, but you start to understand like why he does certain things or like why he is how he is. So you know, they kind of keep that thread going this season. And again, I think I like the cases a little bit better this time around. Yeah, I believe um seasons 3 and 4 are coming up in the next month or two.
Yes.
I'm really looking forward to it. So as always, if you are not, hopefully all of our 10 viewers do like subtitle stuff. This is, of course, Italian with English subtitles. It has a really nice 5.1 track, and it also has a 2.1 stereo to give you that option. This is 8 episodes, and yeah, I gotta say, again, I was really pretty pleased with this season.
Nice.
So there is and you will notice that it is region A, so that's also something to consider. But yeah, it's a pretty good show. I'm really curious, especially with how this kind of ends, like how season 3 and 4 are gonna like shake out. But you know, we'll get into that hopefully really soon. So
Yeah, that's exciting. I'm glad they Kino has been doing a good job of releasing these like international dramas that would have probably never received a Blu-ray release like domestically. So that's exciting.
yeah, and you know, it's like again, a show I'd never even heard of. So
Mhm.
that's just great to have this really nice discovery of something that again kind of flew right under my radar, but now that it's getting a nice wide release, you know, it's kind of a nice time to check these out. And I'm like a sucker for like murder mysteries. I think those are always a good time. So
Awesome. Yeah. So this is my final title, and it's a step up from my last batch of titles. This is Kino Classics. It is from Robert Siodmak, and that is Time Out of Mind. It's a nice 19th century melodrama. So it stars Phyllis Calvert, Robert Hutton, and Ella Raines. Um, we've talked about Roberts quite a bit on this. I think you covered several of his titles yourself. Um, and he's always a director I like to seek out whenever I see his name. I'm like, okay, I need to like buy that or put in a request for that. So yes, I got to watch this one and I quite enjoyed it. It's kind of like your typical, like kind of unrequited love, class dynamics. It involves like a young ship captain who he doesn't really want to live that life. He rather like get into music. He wants to be a pianist, and so it's kind of like kind of dealing with his struggles of like what he's expected to be compared to what he wants to do, and he's also like who he's expected to marry, because there is like a young woman who like he's kind of grown up with and always had a close relationship with, who like loves him and like would probably be the best person for him, but due to like certain class situations and just like kind of like a hesitancy to like reveal certain feelings, like he gets involved with like another like more like aristocratic woman, and just kind of like how that impacts his like emotional well-being. Like there are like bouts with like alcoholism and just like dealing with like those like really heightened emotions that you get especially in like these like 1940s melodramas. It's not like an all-timer, but it's like it's a really solid movie, and I really especially like the direction from Siodmak. He like has a really great sense of composition within the frame. He always really like does really well with constructing his shots, that it's like really dynamic and like varied. So I think he gets really great performances from all three lead actors and like all the ensemble. At 88 minutes, he never really like overstays his welcome. It's like a pretty nice compact melodrama that doesn't like leave you checking your watch. So overall, I really like this film. I'm glad that Kino keeps like, especially doing like both Robert and Kurt's Siodmak well. Like I covered like Love Slaves of the Amazon a few weeks, like about a month or two ago, from Kurt. So like both of them, I'm glad that their movies are getting released to a larger audience. So Time Out of Mind, it's a solid 1940s melodrama. I think if you're watching this, and you probably know if you're that audience or not. So
yeah, and I'm always gonna check out whatever those two put out. So yeah, like I'm a pretty big fan of both of their works. So like I'm sold. I kind of saved my last one is I think kind of the best for last, and that is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And this is a 4K and Blu-ray, so slipcover, loaded with features, and there's nothing really terribly exciting inside, just the dual releases. So I don't know. This might come as a shocker, but I had never seen this before previously. I know. It's one of those movies everybody kind of talks about, and I've seen tons of clips from. But like this is like the first time actually sitting down and really like getting into it. And yeah, it's great. I completely understand why everyone's in love with this movie. It's very charming, it's very quirky. I love it kind of, it's interesting. It kind of reminded me of like Being John Malkovich, because
yeah,
it kind of also has that sort of like weird pseudo sci-fi elements, but it's kind of used in a more kind of cerebral sort of context. So yeah, I had a blast with this. The performances are great. It's always nice to see Jim Carrey get, like showing a nice range. I like that I can go from something like Liar Liar that you reviewed a while ago, which is very zany, that's like peak 90s Jim Carrey, to like something like this that's like really heartfelt and emotional, but there is still that like playful charm, but it's not like dialed up to 11 and say like Ace Ventura. So it's always nice when you see like actors, especially like Jim Carrey, who was like pigeonholed into one thing, really expand. And yeah, the cast is great. This is like the very definition of a stellar, like stacked cast. It looks great. So of course I had not seen this on any previous home video before, but I gotta say I can't imagine this looking any better. So this is a new obviously it's a new 4K, but it's color graded by the cinematographer, and I always love when they bring the like cinematographer on to sort of like supervise or look over like how they think it should look. And yeah, it's great. Like the outdoor locations look amazing. It was interesting because like you don't really get like, again, we talked about like compression issues. There's like the colors are nice and crisp and clean. Like the grain, there's like no grain at all really, which is kind of like pretty impressive. How everything is just so smooth and like crystal clear and clean looking. I really didn't see any kind of faults as far as like visually. It's really nice. You could tell that they put a lot of like work and effort. And again, I love when they bring the cinematographer on board to like steer the ship as far as how it's intended to look. Because I know like Criterion does that a lot, where they'll like bring on board like the DP or the director to supervise that. So I mean, that to me is always like above and beyond. So this has again like a nice wide array of features, and so these are all located on the Blu-ray, as also a heads up there. And it is nice that the feature film is on the Blu-ray as well. So if you don't have like a 4K player yet, you can still have it like upgraded, and then eventually have the 4K when you're like ready for it. So I know that's not always the case, and I believe that is kind of a stipulation from release to release, depending on the studio and the fine print. A lot of that is not in the hands of like Kino. Like, I'm sure, I can't speak for them, but they would probably want to do a dual release for every release if they could, but that's just not like possible. It's unfortunately, it just like, again, depends on the studio and what the terms are. But yeah, like they got you covered. Like their 4K titles have been like some of the most and like hotly anticipated stuff. So like this definitely knocks it out of the park. I was really pleased with how it looks, how it sounds. I mean, it took me an entire day to get through all the features, but it was like well worth it. So yeah, and gosh, I gotta say, I kind of feel bad that I slept on this movie for so long, because it is really fantastic. So yeah.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. I loved it ever since I saw it. I think it's 2004 or 5 whenever it came out, and it's heartbreaking, but I love it. So I'm so glad it
Yeah.
got a 4K release.
I mean, it's so interesting too, because like some of like the like even the special effects in like, was it 2004, like really hold up like way better than I thought. And like I'm like this scene that kind of sticks out is like miniaturized Jim Carrey taking a sink bath. And I mean, it doesn't look like, I mean, I've seen like stuff that looks worse that's much like more recent. So
Yeah. I believe that wraps us up. I'm very excited that, like I said, that classic finally came out on 4K.
yeah. Yeah, it's a heck of a great release, and I think that's a good one to kind of like you want to go out with a bang. So there you go. Yeah, so as always, I wanted to thank everybody for hanging out with us. And if you like this content, please consider giving us a like, subscribe, and as always, commenting is really awesome and helpful. So let us know what release you are most excited for. What's something new that maybe isn't on our radar and should be. So, all right, until next time.